if 2020 was good for anything for the Denver Broncos, it's this. They are able to really establish and understand and find out that Drew Lock's not the guy. They should know that by now. And admittedly, they do know that. And they felt such a way about their quarterback position and Drew Lock that even though they didn't go and draft a guy, they went out and traded for a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, the ultimate bridge quarterback right now, it seems like, in the league. They brought in Teddy Bridgewater because they believed he was better than Drew Lock and that he was going to be the game one starter. It tells you all you need to know about Drew Lock and his status and what type of quarterback he is or isn't, and it tells you a lot about the Denver Broncos. A team with a top 10 pick that instead of trying to find that potential franchise guy, traded for Teddy Bridgewater. That says a lot. A lot. So, if you're a Broncos fan, maybe on the one hand, you have a feeling for a little bit of hope, optimism that this team will be better this year, a little more competitive consistently, and they might be. But what are you building towards, and what's this all about? Now, in free agency in the offseason, they were able to bring in Ronald Darby for a secondary that needed some upgrading in talent. They brought in one guy that should help a little bit there. But then got a gift handed to them by the Chicago Bears where they just released Kyle Fuller for the fuck all of it. So the Broncos are like, shit, yeah, we'll bring him in for a year. Give us a Pro Bowl level corner in this defense. That's certainly going to help. And it does. It absolutely does. Especially when you factor in, you'll have Bradley Chubb another year removed from the ACL injury. You'll have Von Miller back for hopefully an entire season and hopefully healthy. Now all of a sudden you talk about an improved pass rush that has improved to the back end of the defense. Like the dynamics of that defense changes a little bit. But how much does that matter? Now I'm glad the Broncos didn't do anything rash by firing Vic Fangio, because if you really honestly look at this Denver Broncos team last year, like how many games were they really supposed to win? Now, you lose your building block on defense in Von Miller. You're starting a former second-round pick in Drew Lock pretty much most of the season when he's not hurt. I mean, how are they going to do much better than what they did? And sometimes it is easy to look at a head coach and say, wins and losses matter, and obviously they do. It's a bottom-line business and industry at the end of the day. Results do matter. But where do you look at it and say, hey, this team should have won a bunch more games, and that's because of the head coach that they didn't, versus, yeah, this team is pretty much what they are. They're not good, and this coach is getting the best out of what talent he has. Feels like it's more that case, and unfortunately it probably means that Vic Fangio is on the hot seat for 2021, and I'm not sure that he should be. Although I will say that this year, if that defense can't play at a top 5 to top 10 level, then he probably should be fired, because he's supposed to be a defensive guru and a defensive genius, and we've seen that play out in places like San Francisco and in Chicago. If he can't get his defense, which is supposed to be his bread and butter, his specialty, to play like it's bread and butter and specialty, then yeah, you really don't have much purpose for him anyways. What I really criticize about the Denver Broncos is this. You go to the NFL draft. You've signed Darby, you've signed Kyle Fuller, and then you draft Patrick Surtain II in the top 10. Now, in a bubble in and of itself, you're saying, okay, we're trying to beef up a major deficiency and weakness of the organization last year. We're trying to help this roster improve and get better, and we think Surtain can do that. Fine. But damn, you better hope that Justin Fields and Mac Jones are both bust. Because if either one of them even becomes a good NFL starting quarterback, let alone a very good one, let alone a franchise to elite level guy, everybody involved with this organization deserves to be shit on for years. Because they had the opportunity at pick 9 to take one of those guys without having to give up any additional draft pick capital, without having to make any moves up the draft board, without having to sacrifice anything else. They could have sat there, instead of adding to some of the talent they already had in the secondary with Surtain, they could have taken a young quarterback that could have potentially been the long-term answer. And instead, they took a corner. This corner is likely going to play in the slot as a rookie and probably play well. So that's not all bad. Javante Williams was a second-round pick from running back from North Carolina. I'd anticipate he's going to get plenty of opportunities behind Melvin Gordon. Minor's in the third round. We'll see when he gets his opportunities on the offensive line. And Baron Browning in the third round. Another one of those athletes that Vic Fangio can work with in that linebacking core. So the draft in and of itself, again, in a bubble, was not so bad. But if you don't have the quarterback, you have nothing. And this team seemed to go out of their way to say, we don't want a quarterback in this spot. Now, there were reports that the Broncos, in part, were scared off by Justin Fields' medicals related to epilepsy. I can maybe kind of understand that. But if you're the Broncos, don't you still have to roll the fucking dice? Because otherwise you're rolling the dice with a combination of Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock as your two quarterbacks? Yikes. So I look at this team and I worry for Vic Fangio a little bit because, yes, his pass rush is going to be good, especially you hope with a return to health and form of a Von Miller combined with Bradley Chubb. That's instantly going to improve this pass rush, which it should. You look at that offense and you also look at the receiving core. You only had Cortland Sutton, easy for me to say this early in the morning, for one game last year. And Jerry Jeudy, certainly showed flashes of potential of what he could be, especially as a route runner. But he needs somebody that doesn't totally suck at the quarterback position in order to make him shine and give him opportunities. Noah Fant, similar type of deal. He's got that athleticism you really crave out of the modern NFL tight end. So this is a system that a competent quarterback could look somewhat decent in because of some of the talent that you have available in the passing game. That said, the quarterback situation is obviously the biggest problem because Teddy Bridgewater is a bridge to the next guy at this stage of his career. He's not a guy you're ever going to really invest your future in or pin the hopes of your future on. He's not a special level talent. He's just not. Drew Lock's shown you that he's not that damn dude. So what the hell are you going to get out of this quarterback room in 2021? And then I look at him defensively. Their run defense was not great last year, and I still have questions about it this year. That's an area that you would expect a Vic Fangio coach team to be better at, and they just weren't. And the reality is they're going to need this defense not to be good or not just be very good. They're going to need this defense to be great if they have a shot at making the playoffs. And I just don't know if they have the ability to be great in 2021. Looking at their schedule, good thing for the Broncos is the schedule sets up well for them. I'm totally sensitive to the fact that this Broncos team could surprise a little bit because let's say their defense plays at a high level. And then the quarterback plays just well enough to keep them in games and make the occasional play. This schedule sets up well for him. You start off the season in weeks 1 through 3. First two games on the road, I grant you, but it's against the Giants and the Jaguars. It's not exactly murderer's row. Then you come back week 3 and you host Zach Wilson and the Jets. If you're the Broncos, you say, those are 3 winnable games. There's a chance for this team to start off 3-0. They start off 3-0, that builds momentum, that builds confidence, that builds belief that this team could make the playoffs this year. And I want to be clear, especially when you look at that opening start to the schedule, the Broncos could make the playoffs this year. I'm probably underselling them a little bit because of that fascination and obsession with the quarterback position, but it is so critical and so important. The last 7 weeks of the season is the other stretch of the schedule that I really look at. They've got 5 of their 6 divisional games there. They host the Chargers in week 12, then have to go to Kansas City in week 13. They've got a couple of winnable home games against Detroit and Cincinnati. And the last 3 weeks of the year, it's divisional games at the Raiders, at the Chargers, and then hosting the Chiefs. You look at those 5 divisional games, even if you go 2-3 in that stretch, and you win Detroit and Cincinnati, you're 4-3 in your last 7. That could potentially bode well for your playoff chances. And if you go 5-2 in that stretch, you're probably really, really, really looking good there. I can't get over a certain point with this team. I think they're, if it was a 16-game season, I'd be talking about them being a 500-ish type of team. Like, to me, I see 8 wins, maybe 9, third in the division, perhaps in the playoff picture, but maybe not good enough to be there. I can't buy into them fully. But I will say this. They can run the ball effectively, and that defense plays up to the level of what you would expect a Vic Fangio coached unit to do, which, to be clear, there is some of the talent there where they could do that. Then it changes the dynamics here a little bit, and this Denver team might be one that you have to worry about a little bit this upcoming season.